A small-town newspaper once said it's nice to be able to afford a subway, but it's nicer not to need one. But Metro has needed one, and it's needed other solutions to ever-increasing problems of traffic congestion. In all northern American cities, the problem grows more acute. The search for solutions accelerates. The deceptively simple answer that's often given is, get people out of cars and into mass public transportation. City Hall reporter Terry Hargreaves took a look at the situation in Metro, and here is his report.
Good evening. In less than 20 years, 10 Canadian metropolitan areas will spend between $6 and $10 billion to move people by expressway, subway, freeways, and bus systems. Metro Toronto alone, one estimate says, will spend more than $2 billion. It's hoped this kind of spending will give you a few more minutes in bed in the morning, make the subway, bus, or streetcar fast, keep the cars moving at a good clip on the expressways, and turn the lights green when you need them on the main streets. The last 3 or 4 years has seen a changing stress in spending, slightly away from roads and more to subways. The new east-west leg cost $200 million. To help persuade potential riders to use it, a controversial Y was added. This gives a no-transfer ride downtown. One train leaving Keele goes across town to Woodbine. The next train loops down the University line and up Yonge to Eglinton. The same system applies from Woodbine. First train cross town, next train loops down University, up Yonge to Eglinton. From Eglinton, all trains run down Yonge, up University, and then loop alternately to Keele or to Woodbine. The new crosstown line is expected to more than double the number of daily passengers from the 250,000 who use the Yonge line alone to 600,000 for the integrated system. The Y got its first real workout today. It met the challenge of the crowds this morning, but it, along with the rest of the system, faltered this afternoon and into the evening rush hour under the onslaught of several hundred students, as you saw in the news. I had earlier asked the Transit Commission for an interview with an official to explain how the Y worked. Opinion on the Y is so split within the TTC that no one wanted to be interviewed on television about it. As one official put it to me, we're all chicken up here. The Y slated for a 6-month tryout and then running the line separately is the second test. If the Y does work out, the second test might be forgotten about. The first rush hour this morning brought an estimated 200,000 passengers on the line. The big problem was making passengers board the right trains at interchanges and cross-line terminals. TTC officials said except for the student rumpus, everything worked fine. Earlier at the Bathurst station, I asked some passengers how they liked the new crosstown line.
Oh, I enjoy that very much. That's very nice, neat, clean, and the transportation, as I found out in the very first time, you know. I just love it.
I think it's very nice and very fast.
Oh, I think it's lovely. It's wonderful. See, lots of time and everything, you know. I think it's wonderful.
Well, I find it a little slower getting home. I'm used to the Chaplin bus, so I tried a new route. It's a little slower.
I got from one side to the other, and I like it very much.
Good.
All the colors and all the stations, and the service is very good.
I rode on about 3 times already today, back and forth and back and forth. I can't stop going. I have to go every morning on it. I love it.
I'll be using it every day. It's a time saver. It really is terrific to have that subway there.
And you don't find it confusing?
No. If you can read, you're away.
Well, it's my first time here on East-West Subway, and I think it's very efficient and it runs smoothly, and I think it's a wonderful thing, and it's a credit to Toronto Transportation.
I think it's going to be terrific. I've always taken the north and south. This is the first time I've been on the west and east, and I think it's going to be really terrific.
The subway more than doubles the number of trains running with the adding of the new line. They'll still run every 4 minutes during the day, every 2 1/4 minutes during the rush hour. There'll be 27 trains on the rails all day with 45 at rush hours. All the men who drive the new trains are former streetcar, trolley coach, or bus operators. The TTC carries about 750,000 people each day. The number of fares paid for public transit dropped by 3% each and every year in 35 Canadian centers for 19 years after the Second World War. But as the automobile started to strangle on its own popularity in large centers, the trend away from public transit started almost imperceptibly to reverse. There are more subways sketched into Toronto's future, the extensions of the Bloor-Danforth and the northerly extension of the Yonge line. But the ultimate test of any public transit system is whether it's going to be used enough. Commuter parking helps. This has been included in the new crosstown line. A person who might be classed as typical of Toronto transit riders, though prettier than most, is this young lady. Mariam Marco lives in the Bloor-Jane area, takes the bus to the Bloor-Jane Loop, and then travels by streetcar to Yonge Street, or at least until this morning she did. She's a 19-year-old secretary with a provincial government department. Now that the east-west subway is in operation, she still takes a streetcar to Keele, then transfers to the subway. She expects it will give her a few more minutes at home in the morning. She agrees that a lot of businessmen find taking their car more convenient, but adds that the parking problem is getting worse all the time. Reporter Sheldon Turcott rode the streetcar in with Miss Marco. He asked her what improvements she'd like to see in the transit.
As an experienced streetcar rider, what improvements would you like to see made in the system?
Well, I guess naturally everybody wants it to be a little quicker, but it's pretty good. There aren't too many improvements, really. I couldn't really think of any.
Do you think maybe less crowding on the streetcars and the subways when they come along this route would be a better thing?
Oh, yes, but then you'd have people waiting in line for half an hour for a streetcar that isn't too crowded. I don't see how they can avoid the crowds at all, especially during rush hour.
So you think it's well worth it to have a crowded streetcar and not wait as long in a lineup?
Oh, yes, definitely, especially in this weather we're having.
Why do you think some people, when they drive their cars, go down alone? They'll travel 12 miles downtown when they could take a streetcar or a subway?
Well, I think because of the convenience of a car. You know, you have your own privacy. And the odd time, especially businessmen will go out at noon, has something to do, or a salesman will go out during the day. Something like that.
Anything ever funny thing happen to you, such as go past your stop and have to walk back and this sort of thing? Did that ever happen?
Oh, yes, quite often, especially on the subway. You know, you'll be reading something the odd time, or someone's reading it to you. And you'll go right by your stop. You just hop on the next one going the other way, and you're all right.
How often would you say a year you use the Yonge Street subway? As a guess.
Oh, I'd say about 500 times a year.
Really? You
Just
use
about
that
every
often?
day.
Up and
Especially
down.
when I'm working, yes. Because I just hop on the subway from Bloor Street and go right down to Yonge and do some shopping and then come back.
Do you think our streetcars, our subway system, is clean as any can be?
Oh, yes. I think it's very, very clean.
I met with Metro Chairman William Allen and asked him what's planned in rapid transit.
I would see rapid transit maintaining the emphasis and the greater portion of our available dollars for some time to come. I never try to look ahead much farther than 10 years when it comes to construction plans on anything, because pictures change and we seem to learn from year to year. However, at this early date, we have already approved of the next rapid transit construction work to commence when the Bloor-Danforth extensions are completed. The next project to commence in 1968 will be the Yonge Street extension, north from Eglinton, progressively up through Lawrence Avenue, Glen Echo, Hoggs Hollow, and up to Shepherd, or that area ultimately, on a 4-year plan. To be perhaps more precise, if one wished to be in this field, I could see from 1968 on a progressive plan of rapid transit construction of about 1.25 miles per year, roughly $20 million worth of construction per year, till we have a network or a system of rapid transit that will cover the entire area.
There's been some arguments recently about the Spadina versus the Queen Street subway and the future of that. Is this still in a state of flux, or what's the situation?
I have never been able to see anything that's inconsistent or in conflict with those two. I would think that following the completion of the Yonge Street extension, it may very well become obvious that they complement each other. For when one talks of Spadina, you're talking of a north-south service. When you talk of Queen Street, you're talking of an east-west, and neither of the two will serve a full utility unless they happen to meet somewhere.
Metro has a traffic computer. What's its effect on traffic?
The traffic computer is working on perhaps half of our signalized intersections today. and it has permitted a much greater flow of traffic. In fact, over a period of time, counts and timings have been taken to show that there has been a 25% reduction in traveling time in the past 3 years, at the same time that there has been a 12% increase in the number of cars in metropolitan Toronto. This is a device by which we are getting more cars moving more quickly on the same number of street miles.
Is there a saturation point for private auto traffic in an area like Metro?
There is, if you want any room left for people to have homes or space for homes. If you cover up everything with roadways, then there's no space for people, so why bother with the roadways? There is quite definitely a saturation point, and I think that we are encouraging people and educating them to realize that the ultimate answer has to be massive public transportation.
Are we approaching that saturation point now?
I would not like to see many more acres of valuable inner core property used for expressways and arterial roads. I think that we have just about reached the saturation point as far as the inner core goes.
Mr. Allen also says the capital budget of Metro emphasizes the change in thinking. He says the cumulative amount spent on rapid transit in the past few years equals what was spent on expressways and arterial roads in 13 years. But there are more expressways in the plans: the controversial Crosstown, the extension of 400, the Richview Expressway, and the Spadina. Focal point of the Spadina Road will be this interchange, due to go into operation in November. I asked the man in charge of Metro's part of Spaghetti Junction, William Kinahan, if the motorist would have difficulties.
Do you think it's going to be much of a problem for the motorist to figure out which way he's going?
No, I don't think it'll be a great deal of problem for any motorist in this area. Every sign will be clearly marked, and changes will be clearly marked, and no signs will be closer than any 500 feet apart, so that it shouldn't be too much trouble for an ordinary driver if he stays awake.
How about the construction itself? What sort of traffic congestion will it help to relieve when we're in business here?
Well, I think it will relieve a lot of congestion on our north-south roads. For instance, Dufferin Street traffic should be eased considerably, Bathurst the same, and Avenue Road to some extent.
The 12-lane highway that they've opened up here, and you had something to do with that, or portions of it, what kind of a job is this doing, do you think, to relieve traffic in this area?
Well, I think that the 401 through from start to finish is going to do a great job of handling east-west traffic. And it will also help to relieve all the daytime congestion that we get for rush hours, morning, rush hour, night, and our collector lanes on each side will do a good job of handling this local traffic. Our through lanes in the center core will do a good job of handling through traffic.
How about the construction here? How does it compare with other major construction projects of this type in Canada?
Well, this is the largest interchange of this type in Canada. No doubt about that. There are possibly some in the United States that would compare, but certainly the 12-lane throughway of the 401 will be the largest for the time being of its type of highway.
What sort of an engineering problem does Spaghetti Junction present?
Well, one of the basic engineering problems in Spaghetti Junction is to get all the roads meeting.
Vehicle registration per capita in the metro area is third highest in North America, next to Los Angeles and Detroit. Some mornings it seems like they're all out at once. Bruce McRitchie lives on the other side of 401 and drives downtown every day and to the island. We talked to him one morning on the way to work.
What they've done in Valley Parkway, do you think should be finished soon? Is it going to help you anymore when it gets further north?
I hope that it will. Right now, the big bottlenecks in the morning are getting onto the parkway, and once you're on it, it seems to move along fairly nicely.
How about money as far as the transit system is concerned? Do you think more should be spent on subways, or should it be on parkways?
Well, personally, I think parkways, because this is my way of life. I have to go by car to most everywhere I go when I'm not flying. And the subways and surface transportation such as TTC would be no advantage to me at all.
Well, if you couldn't go by car, how would you sooner travel?
I'll buy a helicopter.
When you drive along each morning, do you find that the traffic seems to be getting a bit tougher every day?
I would say yes. As winter seems to move on, I find more and more people seem to be on the roads. Perhaps some of them are using other means of transportation during the winter months. And now each morning it's tougher and tougher.
Do you think there are more cars on the road?
Yes, I believe there are.
What's the answer? How do you get around it? If it keeps on going, you'll just choke the expressway.
This is very true, and this is probably why they're going to have to use surface transportation for people that need their cars and subways for people that can do without them, that work in offices, that don't have to leave the offices during the day.
Come the summertime when you're sitting in a traffic jam and on the parkway, nothing's moving. Do you feel as though you wish that you were taking something else other than...
Oh, very definitely, because you just sit there and you feel so helpless because you really can't correct the situation yourself, and you're right in the middle, you can't get out of it. It's a very depressing situation, especially when you're already late for supper or something.
When Bruce McRitchie is driving the parkway to get to the island, Brian Cowling is leaving his home on Algonquin Island for the city and his day's work. He's one of the dwindling band of island residents. He braves the uncertainty of the weather to take the ferry boat downtown, then drives his car to work. He walks his son Nigel partway to school each day.
Bye, Nigel. See you later. Be good in school.
Mr. Cowling finds it costs more to commute by boat and car, but prizes it for the fresh air, the attraction of the water, and the quiet of the island. A half dozen times a year, he says, the ferry breaks down or the ice packs in and it's tough to get through. Bill Casey asked him how his boss felt if he couldn't get to work because of ice, and Mr. Cowling says it's one of the penalties of employing an islander.
This is the ferry which we take every morning to the city. It's the winter service. It's about 350 islanders, I'd say, travel daily on this icebreaker. It's designed, of course, to carry vehicles and carry passengers as well. All these people now, of course, are going to work.
Well, this is a rather unique way of getting to work. You do a little walking, you take a boat ride, and then you finally drive your car.
Well, we think it's unique. It's inconvenient sometimes. It's very cold sometimes, especially walking along the front there. It's also enjoyable. It gives you a better start to the day. We find it has a lot of attractions that normal method of transportation doesn't have.
But how long would it take you to get to work altogether?
From here, about 40 minutes. The actual ferry service takes about 10 minutes from here to the other side, and I take my car from there to the office. As you've seen, I have about a 12-minute or 15-minute walk from the house to the boat.
This compares pretty well then with someone driving down from the suburbs.
Oh yes, I'm sure. Oh yes, yes. 40 minutes, I'd say, is a pretty good timing for most of the suburbs, from what I can gather. Of course, we don't have the trouble with the traffic stalling or waiting at traffic lights or anything like that. Mind you, we have our problems. When the ice packs into the dock here, it's sometimes very difficult for the ferry to get in, and then we have to go to Hamlin's Point or just wait until we can get some of the ice cleaned out.
Would you rather be driving a car all the way to work?
Oh, no. No, sir. No, I spent one winter in the city getting mixed up in traffic jams and traffic stalls, and I'd rather have this.
Would you like to see the day when they have a tunnel to the island? Have
No,
more cars?
I'd be very sorry if that happened, because then it wouldn't be an island any longer. It would just be an extension of the mainland. And already you can drive to many conservation areas on the outskirts of the city. The island should be left as an island. It has a peculiar, a unique charm as an island, and I think that bringing traffic to the island would destroy this.
In Oakville, business executive Alex McKay commutes by train. I asked him what kind of people traveled in each morning.
I think a good many of them are businessmen. There are quite a few students. Quite a few ladies go into business every day, too. We discourage the shoppers this early in the morning.
I suppose there's already quite a few on from further down the line?
Yes, this comes in from Niagara Falls. So they get on at Niagara Falls and at St. Catharines and at Hamilton.
And there's a big run to get a seat, eh?
Well, you'll watch the scramble now, you see. See, there's a number of people on this, as you can see, and the scramble takes place here. Sometimes they only open one door, and then it's really a funnel.
We'll go down to the end one here, shall we?
I think so. We're more likely to get a seat down here.
In this train, there's no such thing as chivalry. You'll notice that the men roar on, and everybody, it's just every man for himself. Every woman for herself, too.
How about this commuting by train? What made you decide to do it instead of driving in by car? Did you ever think of that, or?
Well, Terry, when you face that traffic on the Queenie, and then it takes you about 45 minutes of constant behind-the-wheel tension, and it takes approximately from the time you leave your house to when you get right into your office about an hour. And if you've been in bad traffic, you get in, you've already done an hour's work, and you're on tension. This way, you get on the train, you can read the paper, you can do some business reading. I keep up on my periodical reading on the train. I get off, I'm completely relaxed. I'm much better when I start the day in a relaxed mood.
What do you think about public transportation generally, as opposed to private cars?
Well, when I've had to be in the office and I couldn't take a chance on the train being late because I have a meeting, I take my car in. However, I leave it. If I have anywhere to go in town, I try to take the subway. I'd much rather take the subway and than worry about where I'm going to park my car, and especially if I go downtown. It's a real chore. By the time you get down there and find a place to park your car, you're really in trouble. So I'm one of these people that's all in favor of public transportation.
And you'll use it.
And I use it. When you drive home and you get into a long line of traffic and all you have to do is have an accident ahead of you, and you can be on that highway for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and you get in, and if the weather's bad, well, there's just no comparison with letting the CNR take all the worry.
Alex Mackay told me that if the service was more reliable, even more people would use it. The province of Ontario intends to do something about that early next year. The province will start a rail commuter service along the lakeshore with trains every 20 minutes during rush hours and hourly during the rest of the day. The line will run from Burlington to Dunbarton, and Hamilton, of course, doesn't like that. There are 15 rail lines converging on the core area of Metro, but a lot of them still carry large volumes of freight, and this is what causes a problem in the Hamilton area, according to the Minister of Highways, Mr. McNaughton, the man in charge of the commuter rail line experiment.
You can only have so much equipment on a set of rails at the same time. And if you've got a high density of freight traffic, you simply cannot operate a commuter service.
Is this one reason why you're not going into Hamilton at the present time?
Yes, this is one of the very important reasons. This has to be examined. And the line that's proposed for use over there is carrying a very high volume of freight traffic.
Now,
so the alternative is simply to reduce the freight traffic or build more rails. And for the purpose of what we're trying to do in this experimental period, it's not necessary. But again, I repeat, this doesn't mean that Hamilton isn't high on our priority list for commuter service. Of course it is.
If this service is successful, will this mean there will be other services in the Metro District?
Of course, we would hope so. We think of communities like Barrie as well as Oshawa and Hamilton, Guelph, if you like, which is only 50 miles away. All these communities are growing, and Metropolitan Toronto is growing. It's growing out to meet these communities. So these are all, there's 15 rail lines converging on this city.
Are you expecting to make money?
No, at the moment, on the basis of our projections, we think we'll operate at a deficit. But the government's prepared to underwrite the capital cost of equipment, pick up the operating deficit for a 3-year period, and it'd be very interesting to you, I'm sure, to know that our estimates of capital cost plus deficit for a 3-year period are about the same as the cost of building 1 mile of the elevated section of the Gardiner Expressway.
So in other words, you feel that it's pretty good economics to subsidize a railway and save some money on your highways.
We think so. Maybe lose a little on the oranges and make a lot more on the bananas, eh?
This could be a pattern then for the future.
Very much so.
Now, you already have subsidized the east-west subway.
Yes.
And is this a precedent for the future?
Oh, I think so. I think it has to be accepted that while this subway is running east and west, that it'd be very difficult to say that the same sort of subsidy shouldn't go against one that may eventually run north and south. I think so.
The commuter service is something that is a must for any metropolitan area. There are thousands of people who wish to come into a metropolis from beyond its limits every day and return every night. Some for business, employment, and shopping. I think that this is much needed in the Toronto area. I would like to look upon it, in its eventual state, as complementing our internal rapid transit system. It will bring people not normally served by our own internal system, but by bringing them in, connecting at stations with the internal rapid transit or surface bus system, if they will complement each other and just add to the stock, which will take people out of cars and put them into public transportation.
Speaking of the commuter service that the provincial government is unveiling, do you see, or would you like to see, others like it in other parts of Metro? This one will run along the lakeshore. I'm thinking of north-south lines.
This is an experimental run. Having served on the committee with the provincial government cabinet ministers who are responsible for this, we are looking at it most anxiously, and I may say quite confidently that it will prove itself and the best way in which to operate it, following which most certainly some thought will have to be given to connections, I would say, from the northwest and the northeast.
Former Metro Chairman Fred Gardner once said there's not enough room in Toronto for all the cars that people would like to bring in. This isn't a unique problem. Most North American cities face it. It would seem they will have to lean more and more heavily upon public transit if, as the Globe and Mail says, they want to avoid choking to death on their own affluence. The expressways have, in many areas, aggravated congestion rather than relieved it. Lots of money is being spent here and elsewhere to find the answers. The tentative response is a balanced system of transportation, roads, and rapid transit. Metro built a lot of expressways in its first years of existence, but now gradually the stress is changing to rapid transit, primarily subway. Those dull, cloudy mornings when it seems it's taking forever to get to work, this might be a meager consolation. Toronto is recognized internationally as one of the most advanced areas in transportation, according to the Metro chairman. Throughout the world, more rapid transit is being built than ever before. The big concern of the planners and governments is, will the people use it?